what I'm sure is going to be a very, very interesting conversation in terms of customer-centric marketing. How do you market in a pandemic world, given the focus on customer engagement and customer experience management? We've had a fairly wonderful set of speakers prior to this session who were talking about how retailers have kind of missed the bus in terms of reaching out to consumers in the manner that they should have. We are having an eclectic panel out here, and moderating the panel would be an old friend and great marketer, Puneet Mudgal. And Puneet, you could take it from here with you and your panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Siju. I'm pleased to be here on this panel with a panel of illustrious speakers. We have good ground to cover. We have been given next 45 minutes, 50 minutes. So in the next 45, 50 minutes, I plan to take a lot of your questions, audience, and you are my first priority. You are our first priority as a panel. So I would request you to queue up your questions. I hope it's if it's a chat option. Rajat, is that the chat option in which you can queue up your questions? And I'll be happy to include your questions as soon as the panel has deliberated on a few key points.
So Puneet, yes. You just keep a lookout on your chat window in your Zoom. I will be copy pasting the questions as I see them in the main hall.
Thank you, Siju. That was very helpful. Thank you so much. I have my chat window open for this conversation. So today's session, we will be discussing three themes broadly and how they come together. First is around customer centricity, and marketers' central role is to be as close to the customer as possible. So how do you build that customer centricity? And the second one is about the measurements, KPIs, what works, what doesn't work. How do you personalize content for getting closer to a customer? What is the life cycle? What is the journey of a customer? All that good stuff. And the third one is, what is the role of technology in this personalization, in this customer centricity? So these are three themes on which we will deliberate. And if you talk to any marketeer for the last 6 months, what we have gone through as a society, marketeers have been also part of that disruption. So the way we had built our plans, the way we had built our teams, the way we had built our KPIs, the way we were structured, budgets, etc. We've all seen that change drastically in the last 6 months. I had not thought about last year that as soon as within the next 12 months, which is now, we'll be seeing cars being sold online. So it's been a very different shift. A lot of businesses were discussing digital transformation, digital disruption enabled, but the last 6 months have been very different for all of us. So in that context, what does it mean for teams to be customer-centric as marketeers? Have our measurement KPIs changed in the last 6 months? Many of our brands and brand managers and marketing heads have launched new offerings, taking advantage of the new segments or new needs in the COVID situation. So we'll be going through a lot of that discussion. So if you have any questions around these three themes, which we'll be exploring in detail, I'll be happy to take your questions and queue them up. And if you want that question to be directed to a specific speaker, please do so. Otherwise, I'll have the luxury and the freedom to pick a relevant speaker and point that question towards them. If you're writing a question to us, or if you're asking that question to us on video later on, please be very crisp with your question first, and then of course give us the context. It makes it easier for the panelists and also for me to moderate the session and get you the right insights for your questions. So that's exactly where we are, and that's my opening sort of comments for this panel, which is about understanding customer centricity in the age of personalization, technology, and how do we measure the effectiveness of all of this. So on the panel, in the order of alphabetical order, I have Amit Sethia. Amit Sethia is the CMO for Future Group. I'll do a very brief intro about where they exactly are today. And then I'll leave upon each one of them to fill in the gaps or share more with us about where exactly are they in this current situation. So Amit Sethia is the CMO for Syska Group. Syska has emerged to be one of the leading brands in the lighting space. That's how they started with LED Revolution, leading that LED revolution in India, if I may say so. And of course, now it's becoming a bigger lifestyle brand. So we'll get Amit Sethia to share about their experience as a category mover and creating newer space for themselves in the market in this space about customer centricity, etc. The next is Jahid Ahmed. Jahid, welcome to this panel. And Jahid Ahmed is the VP and Head of Digital, Social Media Marketing and Content at HDFC Bank. So Jahid will sort of bring in a perspective of, in the BFSI sector, how things have changed, especially in the last 6 months, how customer centricity has taken the next sort of level of sophistication. And after Jahid, I'd like to introduce Prachi Mohapatra to you. Prachi is CMO for the Future Group. And you may have heard a lot about Future Group in the recent times. For me, Future Group Association goes way back in 2011, when Future Bazaar was one of our first customers for our platform, Octane Marketing. So that brand is very dear to my heart as an entrepreneur. And of course, we are seeing that that space change and evolve a lot in the last 6 months. So we'd love to hear from Prachi in terms of, in the customer centricity part, her business, her teams, how they have looked at measurements versus KPIs versus the role of technology in personalization journey for the consumer. In the alphabetical order, let me introduce now Sukleen Aneja to you. Sukleen is the CMO for RB. She has a rich consumer experience going back to L'Oreal, Unilever, Lakme, and those brands. And so it'll be interesting to hear from her in terms of the category that she represents, how things have changed in the last 6 months, but more focused around the customer centricity part and measurements. So we have a great panel in terms of the diversity of experiences. We have Jahid, who can specifically talk about digital and how the banks have really gone digital. And then we have Amit, who can talk about the traditional product-led, distribution-led businesses, how they are changing their customer centricity in the new world, how they're looking at measurability. So with that, let me now invite each of my panelists for taking a couple of minutes to just say their opening remarks on the 3 themes we've discussed so far. So let me invite you, Amit, to help us take you with your perspective on the topic that we have, which is customer centricity, measurement, content, and of course, use of technology in that space. Over to you, Amit.
Thank you so much, Puneet, and hello, everyone. I'm so glad that in the last 10 minutes, we never used even once the word called Corona. I think that's itself a big positive thing. But yes, that was on the lighter note, but I think it has definitely changed a lot of things for all of us as human beings, as customers, as organizations, and as brands as well. So yes, even I think we are also fairly successful in sort of sailing through these turbulent times, and because of the fact that we are a very diversified brand. So yes, we are known for the flagship LED business that we have in this country, but thankfully we continued going for lateral expansion from the very first year, and as we speak, we are not only in LED segment, but we are also into many other segments like grooming appliances, mobile accessories, wires and cables, smart home devices, fans, switches, etc., so on and so forth. So I think the very fact that we are a diversified brand, reduces that risk that you face as a brand, right? Because of the situation which happened in last couple of months outside, right? So that's point number one. Now, when you speak about customer centricity, Puneet, I think we are truly, led by these amazing, interesting, innovative products with which you achieve this whole experience for the customers, right? So as I mentioned to you, it is with LED we started the whole journey. Imagine what happened to LED, what we did to LED. We are in the, we successfully transformed that basic bulb, which was looked at as a commodity, to a whole new sort of a lifestyle accessory or a gadget, right? Which people are now talking about, people are interacting with, they're engaging with. See, customer centricity won't come to you unless and until the customer is engaging with the category. That's my fundamental belief, right? So imagine earlier, the only thing that you were doing with the bulb was switch on and switch off, that's it. Because you go out, buy a bulb, put it in the socket, and then you forget which brand, what wattage, etc. you sort of, checked on. And after that, it is only switch on and switch off, right? But today, yes, because of the technology, yes, you also mentioned about technology. we are in the position to create a lot of experiences with the same bulb by converting that into a smart bulb. Now my bulbs are app controlled, my bulbs are voice assistant controlled, and technically they are in the position to give you 16 million color shades, which is huge. Technically it is possible now. So I think because of the fact that we have these interesting products which are very, very innovative, very, very engaging now, we are able to develop this awesome experience to the customers, not only for LED, but across my other segments, which we'll talk about later on. But I think that's at the core of it, right? So I think, I want to say that, ultimately as a brand, because we kept on diversifying, we kept on, focusing a lot on, awesome products and technology-led, sort of innovative products. We are able to now, draw a bigger picture for the same customer, which we were dealing with, 6 months before, as to what that customer is really looking for. How can we entice that customer? How can we go back and talk to the customer and give something which is maybe more relevant to them? So all thanks to the last couple of months that we have been through. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Amit, for your opening remarks on the journey as a marketeer and Syska as a brand. Now let me invite Jahid with your opening remarks and comments. And I may not have done justice to your extensive background, so you can also include the aspects of what I may have missed out on in my introduction for you, Jahid.
So Puneet, being in digital, there is no existence of background. It's so dynamic that every day is new. Okay. So yeah, but just listening to your the premise of this whole discussion, felt like my job description, Puneet. Okay. Customer centricity, right? Then there is technology, then there is measurement, and surrounding the whole thing is campaign efficiencies, right? That's pretty much what we do in my day-to-day life. Okay. So that's how it is at HDFC Bank. Now, yeah, what Amit was also trying to highlight, right? I think COVID for us, like we are 25 years old legacy banking structure, and pretty much one of the dominant forces in this country, right? How COVID helped us is we kind of literally went digital in its truest sense. Okay, that's how it helped us. Today, you mentioned you can open a credit card from a video-based eKYC. Okay, and that's how end-to-end it has gone digital. You can open an HDFC Bank account with a video-based eKYC. Okay, that's how it has gone end-to-end digital. Okay, and that's how what we have done is there were certain fractured, broken ends which had to be stitched. We utilized this time. We took a step back. Okay, and we ensured that we tie up all these loose ends and ensure that end-to-end is tied up. While we were doing these at the back end, at the front end, we ensured that we are not media dark. Okay. And that is where customer centricity really came into play. There was a clarion call that we represent this country as a national leader, talking to people that be there, be resilient, and stay out over there. And we did whatever possible is required. And I think, recently our CMO got recognized in the top Forbes 50s as a CMO. Again, highlighting the same activity, we gotten Mr. Rahman. We got a song which pretty much became it pretty much became a national song out over there. We thought that we are not bigger than the society. So we put a logo out over there stating, this is our safety grid. So which is otherwise the HDFC Bank logo that became a safety grid over there. Okay. People told us, you are putting your logo on the street. I said, this is a much larger call. Okay. So these are the times which have to be dynamic. So those are the ways we changed ourselves in terms of customer centricity, and we put ourselves out over there, ensuring that we do. At the back end, which is stitched our digital pipelines. Okay. And finally, measurement, right? So banking is a word where everything is measured. But again, there's a myth that banking means everything is performance. No, it's not performance. Okay. We have very significant measurement parameters, be top of the funnel, mid funnel, and bottom of the funnel, right? Top of the funnel is more to do with, we strongly believe that the millennials, the uber millennials, they believe the human side of the brand. Okay. How do you measure performance from a human side of the brand? You can never, right? So that is where my positive sentiments, okay, my brand track, my brand lift comes into play. Okay. And we are trying to get into softwares and technology, which does not give me a quarterly offline brand track. Otherwise, because I personally have a resonance, I don't believe in that personally made offline brand track. If I am doing a customer campaign, which is 1:1, how can you do a sample-based brand track campaign? And that will judge my brand efficiency? No ways out. Okay. So we are trying to build, mechanisms which can track my online brand lift survey month after month, not depending on a YouTube or a Facebook. Okay. So that's something will help me in my top of the funnel. Mid funnel is more about content consumption. What is the amount of time, sessions that he's engaging with us. And bottom of the funnel is, of course, to do with your end-to-end measurement in terms of in performance and cost per acquisition. So yeah, that's how we are making ourselves customer-centric, all backend stitched up with digital. And yes, measurement is at its foremost goal.
So Jahid, thank you so much. Some very interesting points came out, which is very contrary to what I would believe. For example, the millennials' love for a human touch or human interface. I thought millennials would be all tech savvy and all they would want is just more technology. But you highlighted a part which is very interesting. Yeah.
You need human side of the brand.
Human side of the brand. Yeah, sorry. So we'll discuss. We'll explore that more in more detail in the next few follow-up questions, because that's a very interesting topic for us to look at: technology versus the human side of the brand. And a lot gets written about performance marketing, and we'll come to that a little later. So Zahid, thank you very much for your opening remarks. Now let me invite Prachi Mohapatra. Prachi, if you can share with us a little bit background about your journey, and specifically on the topic of the three themes: customer centricity, campaigns effectiveness, and the third being role of technology, AI, personalization kind of stuff.
Sure. Thank you, Puneet. And I'm sure you have had an experience with us 9 years back precisely. Yeah. So you know what a giant we are. And specifically from a perspective of technology, how agile or non-agile we are as an organization. In fact, when we entered into this situation, and thanks to Amit, I'm glad that we have not used the word pandemic or something like that to describe the situation anymore. I think we are in a situation and we just have to tackle it. Positive, negative, it's just a way ahead how it is going to be. So when we entered into this situation, the clarion call for us was to serve the customers. That's only precisely from a point of view of providing essentials. And that's precisely what all of us as customers were looking forward to, right? All of us before marketeers, we are all customers. So all of us knew what were we looking for when we went into the first few days of lockdown. None of us were looking for anything except ghar mein stock kaise karna hai, aata, dal, chawal. So that's the first thing that came to our head. And look at us, we were not nimble-footed e-com business at all. But 14 days, we launched our M site, shopatbb.com, and it was with maximum number of glitches. I can't tell you the heartburn all of us went through to make it live within 14 days, but we made it live. We learned across the way. We turned our stores into warehouses. Now, when you are not completely ready as a warehouse to support an e-com business, and you're basically converting your front face of a shop or a store to a warehouse, it can lead to so many other problems. Like I can't tell you the number of orders we were missing out. We were definitely glitching. And apart from all of this, the few store staff who could reach the store were absolutely not trained to do a pick and pack from an e-com point of view. So what we realized is from a customer, for us, it has always been the customer ki need fulfill hone chahiye, and that's precisely what we looked at. We definitely had the primary point in mind was to provide essentials, and as many as doors were opened and converted to warehouses. And this is the first thing that we managed to achieve. Online, definitely, we went live with our M site. We definitely had door delivery. We had phone deliveries, which Big Bazaar, as you said, you knew how troublesome the journey of Big Bazaar Direct had been in the past. On phone calls, on phone deliveries had never been one of the strongest points for any one of the retailers. And we went live with those as well. So for us, it was absolutely being in the middle of the war, and we created a war room. We were all hands on deck. People like the marketing team were absolutely doing Operation Kaka. So there was no choice for us. So we were absolutely right in the middle, saying that let's serve the customer and let's serve them right. Over a period of journey, yes, did we actually link it back and made the noise? The only noise that we made was we are open. come to us and you absolutely get everything that you want. Nobody, as we as customers, would not like to step out, or in fact, during the lockdown, we were just wanting to get everything at one go. You don't want your orders coming in like part delivery. You want one order coming in. You want it to take it to your place, and you just want to wipe it off clean and keep it. So there was minimum interaction with anything external that you wanted to go ahead with. So going ahead with what we provided was absolutely what the customer wanted, be it a phone call, be it the e-com side, be it any kind of store walk-in. We were there to serving them. That's the part of the essentials of the first space. When we started opening non-essentials, one thing we knew for sure, फैशन में हमने जैसे बोला बच्चे बड़े हो गए होंगे, sizes बड़े हो गए होंगे. But in the past 3 months, all the kids would have grown. Online classes had started. Who knew kids will start getting classes online? I mean, one of the parents had to lend their laptops. So there was a huge demand for laptops. I remember seeing a printer at one of my friends' place 2 years back, and I was laughing at her, saying that, why would you need a printer? Printer was an essential now. If you want kid who wants to study, you better have a printer at home. So these were things that we were absolutely prepared for when the non-essentials opened up, and this is what we stocked up. We were absolutely ready that as the part lockdown would start opening, we will definitely be ready with it. That was the operational part of it. We were absolutely stocked up. The communication part of it, what we were trying to do is we were trying to reach our regular customers. We have a huge first party data. We're trying to reach our regular customers through our future pay notification, through SM, and precisely telling them, you know what, we're stocked up. Come and shop with us. You don't go around and flirt at a lot of places. You don't want to be out. If you're stepping out, just come to us. Jo chahiye, just take it and go back home. And we're absolutely safe. We are stocked up. These are the only two communications that we had. Coming to the third part of it, when we talk about KPIs and all, the only two things we looked at that point of time is definitely the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel, is to reach out to have the maximum reach. Tell people that we definitely open, we are stocked up, and also the conversions. We wanted customers to definitely come back to us. There were huge call to actions where we had deep discount. None of the retailers could go into deep discount immediately. None of them went into deep discount because there was a pent up requirement. I hate the word revenge shopping here. There was never any revenge shopping happening. There was absolutely a pent up demand which just kept on getting fulfilled. And on the bottom of the funnel, what we were definitely looking for is a lot of advocacy, is a lot of conversions, and that's precisely what we completely achieved with the agenda that we set out for. And yes, that's how we tackled the situation. Successful, unsuccessful, I think most part of the numbers of revenues tell you. But yes, this is precisely how we as a brand went ahead as a whole and tackled the situation.
Thank you, Prachi. You guys have had a large role to play in making sure that essentials are available to a lot of consumers in India, given your distribution networks and being close to the customer. So thank you very much for those opening remarks. Now let me bring in Sukleen Aneja. Sukleen is from RB, and RB has some iconic brands like Lysol and Harpic. So Sukleen, give us a sense of your opening remarks, and also if I've missed out on some key areas of your background, please feel free to highlight that, please, for us. Over to you, Sukleen.
Thank you. I'm sorry to my going to be the most my orders.
So we have a bit of a logistic issue with Sukleen's audio and video. We'll see if it can be made better. There's a power outage in where she is, and those are also part of our new normal experiences when you're going live with such conferences. Let me see if we can hear. Sukleen, you want to try again, please?
Let me just, maybe allow me a second. I'll just reconnect. Sure. And maybe.
Now we can hear you, actually.
Is it?
Okay, all right.
Are you even able to see me? Because I'm barely able to see you guys.
We can hear you loud and clear. So maybe the intro remarks you can do with us now, and then take your time to just log back in, and then I'll have the next series of questions. And we'll start with, again, the same order.
Sure.
Amit first, Jahid, and Prachi, and then you. Yep.
Sure.
Please go ahead.
So thank you so much, Puneet. I think a very brief introduction. I think when we speak of consumer centricity, I think as a FMCG marketer, I really have the privilege of working on some of the most consumer-centric brands. So whether it was Acme, which was makeup, very close to a woman's heart, or for that matter, L'Oreal, again, a very defining organization which is extremely consumer-centric. Or for that matter, perhaps the most exciting brand that I worked on in my career was Durex. I don't think I ever got a chance to get into a man's head as well as I did working on the condom category. And that's where you realize the role technology plays, because that's when search is so mind opening. When you realize, because search is the one thing that you do when no one's watching you. So it's so uniquely private to you and really gives you a perspective into a mind, like nothing in a traditional old age methodology of market research would. So to that extent, technology also is very, very powerful as a medium in driving insights. And then, of course, more recently working with Reckitt, of course, during the pandemic, I think an organization which is the largest manufacturer of disinfectant and drug products, whether it's Dettol, Harpic, Lysol, I think in the pandemic, we've had a huge role as well as a responsibility, I would say, towards educating people, especially on the role of using disinfectants versus the cleaners and ordinary cleaners we were all used to using in the house, cocktailing at home. But I think the importance of disinfectants, especially products that are certified to kill COVID-19, the importance of cleaning the right way, whether it's hand hygiene and Dettol that the team has been building on the health side, or for that matter, it's home disinfection. I think we all felt a very strong responsibility, not only to make our brands available, but also on the role that we could play, A, in educating consumers, and B, in partnering with government, that aspect to the organization for the kind of commitment it's shown globally, diverting its entire travel budget into the for access fund, and in India as well, donating Zorpic and Lysol, partnering with governments, giving it to front health workers as well as public institutes. I think there is a clear role and responsibility with the kind of business that we were in, especially in the time that we were in. And more specifically, in how technology is actually helping us as well, or for that matter, the KPIs that we drive. I think the holy grail always is conversion. So sales effectiveness is primarily the role of advertising. And for marketers, the greatest joy comes when you're able to build long-term equity on the businesses that you build and the brands that you build. So how do you make your brand famous? How do you make a real connection with consumers? And even in that today, I would say that the amazing opportunity for us as marketers, of course, it was very sexy at one time and even today, to make a phenomenal piece of advertising that literally goes through 1 million homes via television. But the beauty of digital is that it allows for two-way communication and there's a real conversation with the consumer. And in that regard, I think for marketers as well, there's been a huge learning curve. And we've all enjoyed the process of iteration, learning on the fly, and being these absolute perfection seekers, who would spend the 6 months and getting the copy right, testing every thing in the book to make sure every dot is ticked, every duck is in the row, versus that today, the agility that technology has been able to give marketers, I think it's been extremely empowering. And I think with that, I would hand it over back to you, Puneet. So very exciting time. Measurement becomes critical, but the real goals don't change. I think sales effectiveness and long-term equity remain parameters in a nutshell, which every marketer obsesses about. And I think those will not change and should not change, irrespective of how many new lexicons that we introduce in our vocabulary. So with that, over to you.
Thank you, Sukleen, for the introductory remarks. I think some of us have taken longer to set the context, but you know what? We also answered some of the questions about customer centricity and measurement. So now let's continue with, let's step back and let's continue with the flow of questions. Sukleen, we'll also give you the chance to log back in with perhaps a better connectivity.
I think I
we can
managed
already
to
see
fix
you.
it.
Yes, there you go.
Yes.
That's even better. So now we can fire some good questions at you.
Go for it. Bring it on.
Sorry, please go ahead. You were saying something, Sukleen.
I was saying, bring it on. Let's make it exciting.
Thank you. That's the part. So, when you read customer centricity in the textbook sort of way, there are 5 elements. There's learn, there's align, there's map, there's engage and transform, and there's of course the measurement part. So I have a few questions to each one of you, and we can again take a quick shot at it. Um, Marketing now has become sort of brand marketing, and there's performance marketing. I mean, this is the way, unfortunately, and my pet peeve is, what is marketing that doesn't perform? If this group is the performance marketing, what about these bunch of other people? Are they not performance at all? Are they not performing? So it's an interesting time to be when I think the performance marketing is doing a lot of good to us, but also bringing a lot of challenges because it's very short-term focus. And as Jahid said about the human side of the story, that I think gets shortchanged if you're just driven by immediate numbers. So in that context, I'm really keen to find out, starting with you, Amit, because you come from a very traditional distribution-led product business. How do you build appropriate KPIs which drive the goals for the team or the company in the digital era? So that would be my first question to you, Amit, and quick shot at it, and then I'll rotate this question amongst our other fellow speakers as well. So, traditionally we've seen metrics. Print was different, OH was different, television was different, and now a lot of discovery for our consumers, a lot of brand choices are happening online. So, what in your view are good measurements or appropriate KPIs we should look at? And now the COVID situation will not come up again. We'll not hear the word COVID or Corona or pandemic. This is life as it was, let's say, before March.
See, I think you mentioned performance marketing, and suddenly that whole aspect of marketing at times makes me wonder that what was I doing maybe initially when I started my journey for first 5 or 6 or 8, 7, 8 years, when digital was not so much dominant element in the setup that we drive now, I guess. But I think it's all for the good, I guess. I mean, that's one part of it. Second is as a brand, what we stand for, Seska, as I said, we offer a lot of these amazing products across different segments, and I think that's where the important element for us to ensure that the organization sort of keeps on rolling is the fact that how can we increase the brand footprint across all the households. I mean, it's not only about that one product you buy and say, okay, fine, maine brand kharid liya. No, that's not the idea. The idea here is, can I go and offer them as many products as I can, in fact, and increase my share of the brand? That's one. Secondly, and which is most exciting part for me, I think, as a marketer, because now, because we are so diversified, right? I'm in the position to, talk to a customer which is sort of not so old, say example, a LED customer, and at the same time, I'm also able to talk to a very younger audience, which is fascinated because of your grooming appliances, your mobile accessories, your smart home devices, etc. Right? So the spectrum of the consumers is pretty much extended for me, and that brings another opportunity of extending your customer lifetime value. So today, as a kid, if you end up buying, say, a power bank from my brand, how can I ensure that journey continues across other segments also, right? Irrespective of whether you're a man or a woman, which geography you belong to, because ultimately it's a mass brand, and I think affordability is going to play a big role for all of us. So example, the LED bulb which we used to get, say, maybe 7, 8 years back, the cost of that one bulb versus an LED bulb cost today is completely different, right? So affordability is really changing the game right now. Another thing I want to mention is that a lot of my co-panelists spoke about as to how things changed, for them in the last couple of months. I think because we are agile, because we are customer, sort of, driven brand. It is important for us to ensure that whatever it takes. Like I was listening to Prachi, I mean, a lot of effort she had to put in as a team and as an organization to set up a whole new interface, in fact, for the customers. I think that's a very inspiring example to understand that brands are actually not brands in itself. They are basically your friends. A friend in fact. A friend who can help you in the hours of your need, actually. So in the same route, I think we were also in the position to place our products across all the medical stores during the pandemic time, because actually grooming appliances was counted as semi-essentials. And because we are looking so amazing and so groomed today as well, when we are connected, through webinar, so people wanted to look good, they wanted to remain groomed, and but there was nothing available in the market. So what do you do then? So we ensured that we placed all our products in terms of the grooming appliances across all the medical shops. We created a lot of interesting content pieces, which was all about self-grooming, because today we are, all, indulging in those trial and error method. I don't know how it is looking right now, but perfectly okay. And yes, we did a lot of trial and error method back at home also. So a lot of men were talking about as to how they have learned, to cook things beyond Maggie as well, and I learned how to, give a haircut to my cat with the same trimmer, which I use for my own self actually. So I think a lot of interesting things we did as a brand.
So I have a question for you, Amit. You talked about innovation. You talked about getting close to the customer. Centricity and how you change the distribution to essentials category. That I totally get it. But we come from the share of voice, share of wallet kind of a metrics we used to have before digital happened to us. And now of course, people talk about CTR. So where are you in your journey? I mean, how do you look at different channels? How do you look at effectiveness?
I think very relevant question, Puneet. I think there are two things I want to talk about very, strongly here. First is, I think we have this mindset still in this country that, okay, you prepare one piece of communication and copy paste across all the mediums that you want to use, right? Reaching out to your consumers. I think that is something that I think we need to get away with. That's not going to work in future, I guess. So
that's a very controversial statement. I would love to hear other marketers respond to that. Mothership message, and of course you contextualize it for every brand. You're saying treat it differently completely from ground up. Fabulous. Please go ahead.
Media responsiveness is very different, right? It cannot be same. Like I cannot just go and copy paste, my one mother file across different mediums and say, okay, fine, maine kaam kar diya. That's not how it works, at least for me. And second is, yes, because we are talking about performance marketing. My second point is, personally, I don't get carried away by this metric called as million reach. I mean, like I'm no more in awe of this metric today, because it's easy to reach out to those million people, but more than that, important is what are you doing with that 1 million people? How are you engaging with that? Because I think at times it becomes very, very, like a glamorous aspect that, okay, how many million reach, impressions and CTR, etc. But then are you talking about engagement ratio? So I think personally, I like to chase engagement ratio more than reach and all. I think reach is important. It's just it's a variable of investments. If you put more money, it gives you more reach. But then depending upon your content and quality, you are able to generate different levels of engagement. So that's my sort of 2 cents for
Thank you, Amit. Fabulous. So let me bring in Jahid, because this is, we've set the context now for you, Jahid, because you are living that battlefield every day. Jahid, if I can bring you in, you are looking at content, you're looking at, are you there, Jahid? Are you online for us? Just.
Yeah, very much.
Of course. So, traditionally we've talked about share of voice, share of wallet. Now we're talking about CTRs, engagement. You very interestingly alluded to the human side of the brand. I thought you'll be the last guy to talk about human side of the brand on this conversation. You'll be very metrics driven. How do you see this? Because there's difference, right? There's difference between reach, traditional reach, and now you're looking at trackability. You are in a category which is fabulous in terms of user insights. Every click is measured. You have newer tech coming in, as you rightly said, on a video call you can do KYC. I mean, how do you look at measurement? Do you have different measures for different channels, or do you have how do you build this dashboard for your own footprint?
Puneet, can I also take a minute to tell you that how do we define the segments and what we do
Absolutely.
in these
Yes.
and then come to measure? Is that good? Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
So let me just take you a simple product called personal loan. Okay. Now, in a very orthodox and a dogmatic style, what will you do? You'll keep on doing a campaign called personal loan apply now, right? We went deep into insights and analytics that why are people taking personal loan? Okay, if I open this forum as a question to this forum, people will say they might take it for a travel, they might take it for home renovation or medical emergencies, right? I'm sorry for the call. Okay, we deep dived further. There was very interesting insight. People are taking personal loan to repay back it to their friends. So we said, why are you taking it from your friends when you can take it from us and will not even bother you? So we made a very interesting video that what happens when you take money from friends. You keep on avoiding, be it a birthday party, be it a wedding ceremony. Okay. So then that's how how we do is we first go deep dive into the data. Based on that data, we see what can be done in top and mid funnel to address that entire problem in a much more storytelling format, in a long tail form, in a long format video. Okay, might as well be. Okay. And then Amit rightly said, millions is not the question. Okay, yes, if the objective is I want to reach, perfectly fine. Otherwise, it's engagement. If people are engaging, what is the view through rate? Like, let's say at least 50% people who are watching the video, that means they are kind of interested. Can I get the entire segment and start remarketing on it? May not be immediate, but at least 2 months down the line, we have to ensure that we don't lose track of any data that is coming in. They might take it now, they might take it 60 days later, not a problem. And treat each data differently. Okay, we are very unique way. Like, let's say we ask the question, who is the customer? Is he going to take now or later? Accordingly, change the communication. Where is he seeing my communication? A Facebook is different than Instagram. Within Instagram, a story is different from the timeline post. So every creative unit has to be different. Okay. And then forget about other digital properties. Okay. And then what should I pitch in over there? Should I pitch in a hardcore product on Instagram, or should I talk about it later, or should I talk about mid-funnel Instagram? So that is the way we sequence everything basis who the customer, how's the journey, and where is he. Okay. And now that we do all these things, we don't have exactly how we have to monitor. So we follow two big, let's say you can say dashboards. Okay. One, everything on my own property. When the customer is coming in, how are they behaving end to end? What are the drop-offs? Why are they dropping off? What is the heat map? What is the problem? Can we fix it? Not fix it? Long-term fixing, short-term fixing, and we track it to the end. The other is the entire front-end dashboard, which is my entire campaign dashboard. Okay, so that helps us understanding what is the view through rates, what is the views, what are the clicks, and all those things. Generally, and then we club it together to have one whole story coming out of it. Okay, but again, reiterating one point very essential, that top, mid, and bottom have to be judged, and the parameters have to be very much different in terms of each of these funnels. We cannot mix them together.
Zahid, that's very insightful. Now let me bring in Prachi for her perspective on the same question. Prachi, this is very interesting. Mother campaigns, brand campaigns may work, but for a different channel, for social media campaigns, it has to be very, very specific to that voice of the customer, that trending, that sentiment analysis. How are you looking at all of this?
So,
what's your personal opinion?
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
Sure,
you
please.
saying something?
No, please go ahead with your experience as the future group. How have you looked at measurements across across channels, mediums, large format? We have the two speakers before you have said they moved away from reach to engagement. They moved away from one big message being personalized, productionized into different mediums, channels. Where are you in your journey for measurements across various channels for customer journey in the digital era?
So I'll jump out of this entire situation we are in, and I will look at it from the perspective of how we have approached marketing as a whole first, and how is it has been approached when all of us, like Amit rightly said, when we were all introduced to at any point of our journey as marketeer to digital marketing. Maybe I got introduced to it like 11 years or 12 years back for the first time. I was wide-eyed open, in fact. For us, how I generally put it is, at the end of the day, all of us are chasing for something that is revenue. All of us are chasing for something that is a customer or a brand loyalty for us. So these are the basic fundamentals of marketing or business that all of us are chasing. The tools might be different, whether it's a hoarding, whether it's a TV, whether it's a print. It's definitely, the media might be very different. I still believe for a reach, there are two types of, technically speaking, traditionally we have always divided a campaign into, a brand building campaign and a tactical campaign. A tactical campaign, something you immediately require a call to action, you immediately want conversion of sale, and a brand building campaign, which in digital parlance, I think we can say that, okay, it's basically a reach, it's basically a conversation, it's basically an engagement. So how I look at it, the basics of marketing have not changed. what we have done is to hasten and be nimble-footed in how we are reaching out to customer, and we have personalized this entire conversation for them. I don't want to look at an ad of Beardo. Amit might want to look at it. So of course he will get it. So Clean might want to look at some product which I might not want to look at. So even if you fall into the same same age group, same demographics, your conversations might be very different, and that's precisely what we have been able to achieve with this entire footprint that we have been able to achieve in digital media. Yes, we are still chasing reach. Yes, we are still chasing conversions, are we not? But we are doing it as per the objective of the campaign that we have put it out. At this point, I'll take an example of how we had a conversation, or how we got our entire customers hooked to us throughout the journey of, say, a category like a skincare. We had no non-essentials being opened, how we actually kept the conversation open, that आप घर की चीजों से क्या कर सकते हो. So that's how we actually kept them engaged. We had a gamut of influencers speak with us, and we kept the engagement going on. As soon as it opened up for non-essentials, and as soon as skincare as a category got opened up, immediately we converted it to a call to action, and that's how conversions happen. So these are a general progress of how tools will be available, and we are sitting here today looking at what is available to us today. Maybe tomorrow there might be some other progress, and at this point of time we are hearing blockchain marketing. Who knows how much benefit it can add to us tomorrow by absolutely changing the parlance completely. So I think the basic of fundamentals of marketing are going to same. It's going to be adding value to the business, and that's something that all of us as marketers will always chase.
So thank you, Prachi. Let me now bring in Sukleen. Sukleen, you've heard the three other marketing leaders talk about campaigns, effectiveness, measurements, top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, etc. In your category, and when you look at last 6 months, of course, you can include that as well in our conversation. How do you look at the appropriate KPIs for campaigns which are going across digital channels? Do you agree or disagree about the brand campaign being the larger vehicle, and then of course you personalize for different channels or different social media outreach, or what a lot of our speakers have said, they're doing very, very specific campaigns based on what you're hearing on specific channel? Where do you stand in this?
I think, Puneet, I would definitely borrow a leaf from what Prachi also mentioned. I think the fundamental principles of marketing have not changed. I think for all marketers, the two questions you would always ask yourself is that, is my piece of communication persuasive? Is it fundamentally persuading someone to consider my brand? And definitely the second important thing is cut through, because you are creating a piece of advertising which is in a massive clutter. So if it doesn't even have an ability to have a good cut through, it's going to be completely wasted. So in that regard, I think where I've personally seen the biggest shift that has happened is that as marketers, our challenge has definitely gone up when you look at a medium like digital, because the consumer's attention span is that much lower. So when there is a storytelling-led, interesting piece of communication, even if it's a 3-minuter, they're super engaged. But otherwise, when you're looking at short-term creatives, chances are if you do a BLS and you do ad recall, literally a second after, they may not even recall the brand. So when you're dealing with reduced attention spans in categories which may be seemingly low involvement, then how do you create relevance? Becomes a critical question. Then coming to your second question with respect to, is there a need for customization? Absolutely there is. Every medium has its own paradigm. It's used for different purpose, like YouTube is your cinema hall. A social medium is where customers don't want to be interrupted. And Amazon clearly is the best medium when it comes to taking a consumer to a shopper mall. So how do you really engage him in a shopping mall? That's the experience that you have in a platform on an e-com site. So in that regard, what doesn't change is perhaps your brand's benefit, your brand's core. But the way it executes its message across mediums should and must vary, because the mediums itself are different. And that is not something new. Even in the age-old time, when people were customizing content for television, differently for outdoor, differently for print, you always had to keep in mind the medium first, because the message was the medium, right? So you couldn't look at these two in isolation. Perhaps the challenge with digital is that because there is so much of data that's going in and there's so much information overload, unless you personalize, effectiveness takes a beating. So, I mean, if I don't show the right content to a Jahid or a Prachi, chances of them saying, oh, it's not relevant and scroll through is so quick. So personalization is to the benefit of the brand and the consumer, right? It's a win-win. So how well you know a consumer and how well you personalize becomes important. With respect to measurement, I think there are some critical factors that you have to get outside reach. So clearly reach is important, but for brands that are heavily advertising on television, reach becomes table stakes. Then digital must add incrementality. And where that incrementality comes in, it could be the engagement ratio, it could be in the click-through rate, which is a surrogate for intent. And today, if you look at full funnel analytics, you can actually see the full consumer journey to say how many actually saw, converted, and what was your ROAS. So you're able to see the full funnel. And that's the joy actually of digital, because in television, you did spraying and praying. You were hoping that 100 people got who were exposed, maybe 1% of those people would actually go and buy. In digital, you become even more anal to say, if I showed 10, what happened? And where did they stop in through the funnel? But fundamentally, I think the premise doesn't change. Are you breaking the clutter? Are you fundamentally being persuasive? And that's what would lead to conversion, because no sales, then you're not in business, right? Everybody sells. That's why we're in business.
So you raised a very interesting point, Prachi, and I have got a question from the audience. We'll take probably one or two questions, and then I think we'll try to close. So you talked about Sucleen, sorry, you talked about how effectiveness you can measure very easily on digital. Are you also using digital tools like YouTube, etc., to measure the effectiveness or the reach of or the engagement of your mass media campaigns before you roll them out on television? Are you there as yet, or have you gone past that stage? Okay,
100%. I think ad pre-testing becomes extremely critical, especially for brands that have massive budgets, right? Because that piece of communication has to do the heavy lifting for the whole year. So it's in your best interest to pre-test, because it's a diagnostic. It's not a report card. It's only helping me make a better decision. And it's only helping my team make a better decision. So in that regard, I'm an extremely big fan of pre-testing, but of course, without letting go of common sense. Sometimes if you're going to have extremely brave campaigns, sometimes you may even take a leap of faith. But as far as possible, diagnostics always help you correct for blind spots. You know, that
Great, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Sucleen. So I have a question from the audience, which is, any one of you this is a question open to all the panelists. Any one of you is using AI for funnel analysis? Where in marketing are you using AI? Are you seeing some early examples of success? That's one open question that any one of us can take. Maybe Jahid, you can start with, and perhaps others can chime in. I think this is the only time we'll have for audience question, but that's where we are. Yeah.
Sure. No, Puneet. So yeah, we are using AI significantly for journey drop-offs. Okay. So I'll tell you, again, if you take, let's say 2-3 years back, we used to do remarketing, right? The word everybody knows remarketing. Okay.
Correct.
Now, nobody can tell effectively the efficiency of remarketing campaign. Okay. Now, what happens is we do the drop-off journey analysis of the guys who are getting dropped off, who to remarket again with what. So what we have seen is a top of the funnel drop-off, okay, should not be remarketed again with a tactical campaign. The whole remarketing scenario should be more with a content-led campaign, nurture him, churn him, and then go for a drop-off. Okay, and that's again I'm talking. So this entire drop-off journey. So let's say 10% is the conversion rate of a particular product. On an average, 90% is dropping off from. Okay, so if they are dropping off from multiple positions, we have a data collection done. We do an entire modeling, whom to target what, and then interesting is the lookalike that we do out of that. Okay. So then so let's say otherwise you will say, okay, this is a lookalike of, these are the buckets that you can do. So the lookalike modeling can also be done very significantly basis using AI of the drop off that happens. So those are the two ways that we can use AI.
Thank you so much for that answer, Jahid. Very interesting to talk about how you looked at drop-offs as a journey for using artificial, because the touch points are so many that it humanly may not be possible to look at and do a segment analysis and come back and look at retargeting campaigns.
If you're not using AI, just quickly one line. If you're not using AI, you're always doing a post-factor analysis.
Absolutely.
Okay, AI is actually helping you to do it on the fly.
Okay. Any other panelist speaker would like to chime in for this particular question? And while we're waiting for them to respond, I'll request other folks to also say their question. Please go ahead. Prachi, please go ahead.
So, I mean, Zahid already mentioned it very clearly. It's not an option anymore for any one of us not to use AI. It has to be used in your entire stack for you to be able to get maximum out of a customer. Like when you map a customer, new customer, you're basically mapping a customer's new entrant entire lifetime value also. So these are small points. And say if I get you as a customer, Puneet, and I know you are of X CLTV, like customer lifetime value, you have an X, and if I just measure half, if I get only 50% or 20% out of it, then I'm not maximizing the potential of what you can give me as a customer. So all of us are using AI and algorithms to be able to maximize every user journey, every customer journey with us as a brand. So
where are you seeing the best use of your AI case in the, you talked about many aspects, but where do you see in your teams, where exactly are you seeing the maximum return on investment of deploying AI?
I'm actually wanting to take that leaf out of what Zahid said to see the 10% conversion at any point of time by using AI. I'm actually waiting for that to happen at any point of time for my brand.
Okay.
So yeah,
with that,
most of us at what Zahid mentioned was just one part of the user journey which he or she completes with you. All of us are using AI at various part of the user journey. So for example, if a very common example for you to be able to know if you're putting something in your cart, you will get a push notification. If you don't complete your journey or complete your entire buying with any brand, forget about my brand, the moment you hold it for about 4 hours, 5 hours, immediately you'll start getting notification, SMSs by seeing a deeper discount or any other offer being offered to you. What is this? This is just a simple use of what we are doing at this point of time to be able to push you to the last level, that's conversion, and maybe the next leg, which is advocacy as well. So yes, it happens at all part of a user journey. More or less, the entire MarTech stack is is built up on the entire knowledge that an AI gives you, and that doesn't happen only on the user journey. What you have as your first party or data, also you basically model the entire intelligence of algorithm to basically, as Zahid mentioned, to figure out what is a customer journey with you and what all he can actually take, even if it is a cross seeding of other brand, even if it is a cross seeding of other category. There is so many other algorithms that can get pushed on you as a customer, modeled on your behavior with us.
we have just got started. We just warmed up as a panel. There's so much to explore. There's so many questions which are lined up, but we have run out of time. 1 hour is too short to discuss such three key themes which perhaps need 90 minutes or more. Let me thank each one of my panelists for their perspectives and sharing their ideas. I found some new directions in my own understanding of how campaign measurement should be. I had a few aha moments around how, for example, we have used personalization in the last 6 months pertaining to the new situation we were in to come back with newer solutions for customers. As listening post, how we use digital. So it's been a lot of learning for me in terms of how banks are using technology to look at both personalization, also measurability. I wasn't so sure, Zahid, I'll be getting this crisp answer from a BFSI marketeer on how you're looking at metrics and measurements. So phenomenal insights for this panel. With this, let me bring this panel to a close. And if you guys have any follow-up questions and we have not answered some of your questions, then ICS Internet Commerce Summit can take some of your questions offline. I'll be happy to take your questions and go offline and also ping any one of the speakers for their insight. Thank you very much, Amit, Zahid, Prachi, and Sukleen for being on this call. And as I had promised to each one of you, we'll be definitely wrapping up before 5 o'clock. So Rajat, thank you very much for hosting us here. Anurima and Bhavesh, thank you very much for having us here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Puneet. Thanks, everybody. It was a wonderful session. Amit, Prachi, Zahid, and Sukleen. Thanks, Puneet, for moderating it so well. Very interesting panel. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bhavesh. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sukleen. Thanks. Bye.